Fellas, we have hot off the presses, fresh out of the oven like a cinnamon bun, ripe and juicy like a mango in a tropical oasis, the updated top 100 prospects on MLB Pipeline. We got 100 prospects to talk about. I'm on my 8th cup of Instant Joe this morning. Let's get to it here. Starting at number 100 with Travis Sakura, making his debut on this list, and this guy is quietly rising this year in the Nationals organization. A big fastball, plus splitter, and above average slider, putting up really good numbers this year, a 2.42 ERA in 15 starts at single A so far. Keep your eyes on this guy. At 99, we got James Tibbs, who was just drafted by the Giants 13th overall this year. He absolutely mashed at Florida State. Excellent plate discipline, a ton of power, a bit prone to breaking and off-speed stuff. Could have some platoon risk, but there's definitely a good amount of floor here and a good amount of upside as well. At 98, we got a Dale Amador in the Rockies system. He actually made his Rockies debut this year, but is having a down year overall along with some injuries, but there's still a lot to like here. He's got a great hit tool, good plate discipline, and he's hit very well minus this year. Personally, I do think he could be a bit higher on this list, but I understand him being this low because he needs to show that he can hit above A ball. Staying with the Rockies and making his debut on this list, we got Yanquiel Fernandez. He's got a big swing with a lot of power from the left side. He hit 25 home runs last year between high A and double A, and he's putting up some solid numbers again this year. He hasn't shown great plate discipline in the minors, but he has cut down on the strikeouts a lot this year, and he's got a plus arm in the outfield. At 96, we got Braxton Ashcraft of the Pirates organization, who's also making his top 100 debut. Very good season for him this year, posting a 2.88 ERA over 15 games. He's got a plus fastball, good slider, has a curve and a changeup too, and he's only walked 12 batters all year. He is dealing with some forearm stuff right now, but if he's healthy moving forward, he should be solid down the road. At 95, we got Angel Janau, another debut prospect on this list, and what do you know? Another top prospect that's an infielder for the Guardians. Nonetheless, this guy is hitting very well this year in A-ball. He's hitting .329 with an .877 OPS, 10 homers, also has 23 stolen bases, has a great hit tool, good speed, has a little bit of pop as well, solid defensively. Personally, I think he should be a little higher on this list, maybe in the 80s or so because of the year he's having. At 94, we got first baseman Tyler Locklear for the Mariners. He actually got called up this year, but he's back in AAA now. Nonetheless, he's hit very well this year in the minors, hitting .282 with an .888 OPS and 14 home runs between AA and AAA. He's got a good amount of power, does walk a good amount, but he does have a high strikeout percentage. At 93, we have outfielder Zach Veen, who was drafted 9th overall back in 2020. He's an interesting prospect to me because there's a ton of upside, and he played very well in his debut season, but then his numbers dipped for a couple of years, with a lot of that due to a wrist injury and his swing getting kind of wonky, but he's starting to trend in the right direction this year. He's a really good athlete with a lot of raw power. He just needs to put it all together. At 92, we get outfielder Drew Jones, the second pick from the 2021 draft. There was a lot of hype with him coming out of high school, mostly because he had the defensive upside of his dad, Andrew Jones, but he hasn't been able to fully put it together in the minor leagues. A lot of that due to a shoulder injury that cost him his entire 2022 season. We're starting to see some good things this year, though, as he's hitting .274 with a .405 on base, and he's got a lot of raw power. Personally, though, because of the slow start, because of the prior injuries, I would actually go with Johnny Farmelo in the Mariners system here, who's also got good upside, and he's having a bit of a better year. At 91, we have shortstop Starlin Caba in the Phillies system. He was an international signing last year, and he's known for his good hit tool, and he's really good defensively. He hasn't shown too much at A-ball yet, but he does have a .400 on base over 65 games, and he's only 18 years old, for crying out loud. He could definitely be a star down the road once he puts it all together. And closing out the 90s, we got lefty Jackson Ferris. He was just traded to the Dodgers last offseason in the Michael Busch trade, and there's a good amount to like here. Big frame at 6'4", plus fastball and a slider, along with a good curveball and changeup, and he's pitching great this year between high A and double A. Into the 80s we go, and we have righty David Festa at 89, who's currently with the Twins. He's got a plus fastball with a good slider and a changeup. He is giving up a lot of home runs this year, though, but overall, he's solid for the most part. Personally, though, I would have him outside the top 100, and I would have someone like Gary Gilhill from the Rays, Luis Morales from the A's, because I think there's a bit more ceiling with those guys. At 88, we got Hayden Birdsong with the Giants, who was called up earlier this year. He's got a plus fastball and a changeup and a pretty good slider, which helped him pitch well at AA this year. He is prone to walking guys, though, and like David Festa, I would have him just outside my top 100. Back to the Twins system at 87, and we got Zebby Matthews, who's also quietly rising this year. The name of the game for him is the command, and he barely walks batters. In fact, he didn't give up a walk until his 7th start this season. Now, he does sit low 90s with a velo for the most part, but he does have a good cutter along with a curveball, slider, changeup. I think for the most part, there's more floor here. At 86, we have another guy who's rising fast, and that's lefty Quinn Matthews in the Cardinals organization. Good fastball and a slider with a plus changeup, and he's pitching really well between A-ball and Double-A this year, posting a 2.49 ERA over 20 starts, striking out 11 batters per 9, walking 3 batters per 9. He's looking like a solid under-the-radar prospect as of right now. Coming in at 85, we got Sal Stewart in the Reds system. Good hitter with some pop and great plate discipline. He's struck out 57 times this year, and he's walked 50 times. He's hitting 279 with an 845 OPS at high A. Keep your eye on this guy. At 84, we got second baseman Termarr Johnson from the Pirates, the number 4 pick from the 2022 draft. He was known for his good bat and advanced approach coming out of high school, but he hasn't been able to fully put it together in the minor leagues yet. He is showing elite plate discipline, though, as he has a 395 career on base percentage in his minor league career, and he did hit well in July, hitting 319 with a 971 OPS over that month. Now, because he hasn't had the greatest overall numbers in the minor leagues, he has lost some stock, so I'm okay with him being this low, but I think it's just a matter of time before he puts it all together. At 83, we have Ryan Clifford from the Mets system. Definitely a lot of power upside with Clifford because of his big uppercut lefty swing, and he walks a good amount, but he does strike out a lot. This year coming in at around 30% of the time. My goodness, that is high. But he's also going to be limited in the field as he doesn't have a lot of speed, and he's probably going to stick at first base. I would personally have him outside the top 100. At 82, we got the other player that came back in the Justin Verlander trade from the Astros, Drew Gilbert. He's going to be more of a balanced hitter than Clifford, as he has a good hit tool with a good amount of power upside, and he plays good defense in the outfield. However, he's not having a great season this year, as he did miss a lot of time due to a hamstring injury. At 81, we have Christian Moore. Simply put, this guy was a madman at Tennessee, and he's already tearing it up in the minor leagues. He's already at Double-A, and through 11 games in the minor leagues, he's hitting .465 with an OPS of 1.484. My goodness, this guy is out of his mind. Now, he was a little bit prone to strikeouts in college, but I think he's going to be fine. This guy hits for average, he hits for power. I think he's going to be a really good player for the Angels down the road. Closing out the 80s, we got Christian Campbell on my Red Sox. This guy has just exploded this year after getting drafted in the 4th round in 2023. He's very athletic, being able to play both in the infield and the outfield, and his bat has just come alive this year as he's evolved from hitting ground balls to getting more balls into the air. Now, this has increased the strikeouts a little bit, but he still draws a lot of walks, and he's got good raw power as well. He's got a big frame at 6'3". You could see him hit anywhere from 20 to 30 home runs potentially down the road. Into the 70s we go, and at 79, we have shortstop Alex Freeland from the Dodgers system. He's also bust onto the scene this year. He was pretty inconsistent last year, but this year, he's making much more contact to go along with already showing strong plate discipline, and he's a solid defender at shortstop. At 78, we got Jordan Beck, who did get called up to the Rockies this year, but he ended up missing a lot of time with a broken hand. Before that, though, he was hitting .316 with a 945 OPS in the minor leagues, and he hit 25 home runs last year. Now, there are some strikeout issues, but he does draw a good amount of walks. He's also very athletic, so there's good upside there, and he's a strong defender in the outfield. At 77, we have first baseman Ralphie Velasquez, the Guardians' first-round pick in 2023. He's a disciplined hitter with good bat speed, and he has good power upside, but he hasn't fully tapped into it yet, as he's only hit 10 home runs in A-ball this year. He's only 19 years old, though, so there's a lot of ceiling here. At 76, we got the 10th pick from the 2023 draft, right-hander Noble Meyer in the Marlins system. There's a lot of projection here. He's 6'5" at only 19 years old. He has a plus fastball and a plus slider along with a changeup. Because he's got long limbs, he has to work on that command a little bit, as he's walking almost 7 batters per 9 so far this year, but he's also striking out 10 batters per 9. If he gets that all under control, he can end up being really good for the Marlins down the road. We got Caden Dana at 75, and he's taken a big step forward this year in the Angels system, posting a 2.75 ERA through 20 starts and about 10 strikeouts per 9. has a good fastball slider combo, has a curveball changeup as well. He's got a lot of upside and could be the next best pitcher for the Angels down the road. At 74, we got Kevin Alcantara in the Cubs system. Remember, he was one of the minor leaguers that came back in the Anthony Rizzo trade with the Yankees, and so far he's been pretty solid this year, posting a 751 OPS, which helped him earn a call up to AAA, where he's also been hitting okay. He's a big guy at 6'6", and he's got long levers, and sometimes I can give him a little trouble being consistent with his mechanics, but he's got a lot of power upside, he's got a lot of athleticism, so there's a lot of ceiling here. At 73, we got Felnin Celestin, and there's a lot of ceiling here. He was an international signing for the Mariners last year. He's known for a good hit tool, play discipline, and athleticism at only 18 years old. He did suffer some injuries last year that stalled his pro debut. He's in rookie ball this year, and he's hitting pretty well. However, because he is so young and there's only a small sample size, I personally would have him a bit lower in these rankings. Coming in at 72, we got Edwin Arroyo. Remember, he was one of the players that came back in the Luis Castillo trade with the Mariners a couple of years ago. In 2022, he had a lot of helium after hitting really well in the Reds system, but after his numbers went down last year, he ended up getting a torn labrum in his shoulder, and he's out for this year. Because of that, and with his numbers dipping in 2023, I don't think he should be on this list, but that's just me. At 71, we got Max Meyer with the Marlins. You know, it's funny. It feels like yesterday was the 2022 draft, and it feels like these players from that draft are starting to get a bit of fatigue, and that includes Max Meyer for me. Now, don't get me wrong. He's got good stuff, but his numbers with the Marlins haven't really been amazing so far, both at the major and minor league level. He did miss all of 2023 because of Tommy John, so he's still working his way back from that, but I feel like Meyer's time on this list could be running out. And closing out the 70s, we got the younger brother of Jackson Chourio, outfielder Jason Chourio with the Guardians. Not as much upside than his brother, but still a very good hitter with good contact skills, a bit of pop, and a lot of athleticism that helps him steal a ton of bases, and his defense is very good in the outfield. Into the 60s we go, and at 69, we got the 11th pick from the 2021 draft, third baseman Brady House. Lots of power upside here. This guy's big at 6'4", but he has trouble being consistent at the plate. He's prone to strikeouts, doesn't walk all that much, and he's still getting a bit better at third base defensively. Because of that, I would have him a little bit lower on this list, but there is some ceiling here. At 68, we got first baseman Tyler Black, who has seen some action with the Brewers this year. He's an unconventional first baseman at this point, as he hits well and gets on base, but there's not a lot of power. He does have versatility though, but he doesn't play great defense, but he does have some good speed. Honestly, it's kind of hard for me to think where he should be on this list, but I think because of his good floor, this is a good spot. At 67, we got second baseman Luke Keeschel, who I think is pretty underrated. He's hitting well this year at high A and double A, hitting over 300 and posting over a 900 OPS with 15 home runs, 23 stolen bases. He was known more for his contact ability and speed coming out of college, but his power has come a long way, and he's shown he can either be good defensively at second base or center field. At 66, we have right-hander Jacob Misarowski in the Brewers system. This guy really bust onto the scene last year between A-ball and double A, has good velo, a nasty slider curveball combo. He's also pitching pretty well this year, striking out 12 batters per 9, but the problem is he walks a few too many batters, walking around 6 batters per 9 so far in his minor league career. Overall though, despite there being some reliever risk because of the command, he's got great stuff that should carry him to the major leagues within the next year. So even if he ends up being a good reliever, I still think this is a good spot for him. At 65, we got right-hander River Ryan in the Dodgers system, who did just end up getting Tommy John. Before that though, he was pitching very well this season after missing some time earlier on. In 8 starts, he had a 2.22 ERA thanks to a 4-pitch mix, big fastball, plus curveball slider combo, and a changeup. Because of the Tommy John though, I'd probably knock him down on this list since he's going to be out until 2026. At 64, we got second baseman Jace Young, the 12th pick from the 2022 draft in the Tigers system. Overall, solid hitter, good plate discipline, has good pop as he hit 28 home runs last year between high A and double A, and he's having another solid year this year. At 63, we got catcher Edgar Cuero, who the White Sox got back in the Lucas Giolito, Reynaldo Lopez trade last year. Cuero is going to be more of an offensive catcher, and he is doing pretty well at the plate this year, hitting just under 300 with over an 800 OPS, and he's on pace to set a career high in home runs. As for the defense, though, he has a decent arm, but he doesn't move as well behind the plate, and because of that, I'd probably have him a little lower on these rankings. At 62, we go back to the Brewers with shortstop Cooper Pratt. He's a big guy at 6'4", so there's a good amount of power upside, but he hasn't fully shown it yet. He's only 19 though, so I expect that to come along, especially considering he's already a pretty solid hitter with good plate discipline, as he's hitting 287 with a 378 on base so far this year in A ball. Because he hasn't shown a lot of power yet, I'd probably put him a little lower here, but there is a good amount of upside. At 61, we got another shortstop, one that was just drafted 11th overall by the Tigers, Bryce Rayner. I actually like this spot for him. Now, he did just get drafted out of high school, but he's got a lot of upside. He gets a lot of comps to Corey Seager, and he reminds me personally of Marcelo Meyer, a guy with a good left-handed swing who makes good contact, has an advanced approach at the plate, and has some power upside there. He's also very good defensively at shortstop. I think he's going to be a good player down the road for the Tigers. And closing out the 60s, we got James Triantos with the Cubs. He makes a ton of contact, has a good eye, and he's hitting 296 with a 342 on base so far this year. He's also got decent power upside because of the bat speed, so we could end up seeing more home runs as he develops. He's not amazing defensively though. He plays an okay second base, probably could play some outfield as well. When you put it all together though, I think because of the lack of power so far and the below average defense, I'd probably put him a little lower on this list. Into the 50s we go, and at 59 we got Braden Montgomery, the 12th pick for the Red Sox in this year's draft. Simply put, he's gonna mash. He's a switch hitter, does most of his damage from the left side. Good bat speed, good strength, big frame, a lot of raw power. Now, he had a bit of trouble with swing and miss at Texas A&M, but I think the Red Sox organization, who've done well with position players in the past, they're gonna get that cleaned up. He's also got a cannon of an arm, which is gonna be perfect for Fenway Park down the road. There's a good amount of upside here. Now, he did hurt his leg in the college playoffs, so we're gonna have to wait a little bit before we see him start playing. He'll probably be ready for spring training next year, but in the end, I think there's a lot of ceiling here. At 58, we got the son of Carl Crawford, Justin Crawford, in the Phillies organization. He's just like his dad, very athletic, has a good feel for hitting. Not a lot of power. He's going to do more of his damage in the gaps, but he's got some sneaky pop, plenty of speed, just like his dad, which should make him an everyday center fielder down the road. Overall, having a good year this year, hitting over 300, OPS around 800, 30 stolen bases. For me personally, I think he should be a bit higher here, despite the lack of power. At 57, we got Jet Williams in the Mets organization. Now, he didn't play much this year because of a season-ending wrist injury, and he's a bit undersized at 5'7", but there's a lot to like with Jet Williams. He's extremely disciplined at the plate, walks almost as much as he strikes out. Now, not a lot of power, but he lifts the ball in the air, so he's got some sneaky pop, and he's got plenty of speed to help him extend doubles into triples. Because he's so athletic, he's able to handle both shortstop or even center field. I think he's going to be a really good player down the road. At 56, we got the 8th pick from the 2022 draft, catcher Blake Mitchell in the Royals system. He rose up big in this update, ranking 94th last time. I think he's still pretty underrated here among all the catchers in these rankings, as he's very good defensively, has a rocket of an arm, and he's hitting pretty well this year at single A. You know, sure, he hasn't been above single A yet, but I think there's a lot of upside here, and personally, I think he should be a bit higher in these rankings. At 55, we got Connor Griffin, who was just drafted 9th overall by the Pirates in this year's draft. Griffin, simply put, he's an alien. 6'4", coming out of high school, dumb bat speed, has a ton of raw power, stupid athletic as well, and so good defensively to the point where he can play in either Gold Glove center field or shortstop. The only thing holding him back, though, is the hit tool. Has some timing issues. The swing can get a little long at times, but oh boy, if the Pirates can get that cleaned up, they'll have a special player on their hands. But the Pirates, we all know what's been going on with them offensively this past year. Let's hope they don't mess him up. At 54, we got first baseman Bryce Eldridge in the Giants system. He makes a big leap in these updated rankings, and at one point we thought maybe he could be a two-way player, but it looks like the Giants are just going to focus on him hitting, which I don't think is a bad idea at all. He's mashing this year at A-ball. There's a lot of raw power here. Now, does strike out a little bit, but he also walks a good amount too. Now, getting back to the raw power, he's 6'7", only 19 years old. My goodness, this guy could be a freak in the major leagues one day. At 53, we got catcher Harry Ford, the Mariners' 12th pick from a few years ago, and there's a lot to be excited about here. He's an athletic catcher that's capable of playing other positions, and he has good plate discipline shown by his over 400 career on-base percentage in the minor leagues. At Double-A this year, though, his slash line and his home runs have dipped a little bit. Because of this, I don't think it's completely unreasonable to have Blake Mitchell ahead of him at this point. At 52, we got first baseman Kyle Manzardo. The Rays traded him to Cleveland in the Aaron Savali trade last year, and while he hasn't fully figured it out at the major league level, there's good upside with the bat here. At AAA this year, he's hit .269 with a .949 OPS, 16 home runs, and his 50 walks are almost tied with his 51 strikeouts. I think it's only a matter of time before this guy puts it all together, and he's the everyday first baseman for the Guardians. At 51, we got right-hander Tink Hence in the Cardinals system. Hence, for the most part, has been pretty solid over the last few years, and he's having a good season despite some shoulder issues that have caused him to miss some time. But overall, over 15 starts, he has a 3.02 ERA with over 12 strikeouts per 9, under 3 walks per 9, with a plus fastball, plus changeup, and a good slider curveball combo. If he stays healthy, I think we're going to see Hence in the major leagues pretty soon. And closing out the 50s, we got Braden Taylor, who was drafted 19th overall by the Rays in the 2023 draft. He's a solid hitter, good power, plays well on the left side of the infield. Overall this year, he's hitting .261 with an .881 OPS, and while he does strike out a little bit, he is pretty patient though, and he draws a good amount of walks. Howdy everyone, just want to take a quick break and talk about our partner for this video, and that's Mando. I've talked about Mando a lot on this channel before, and for good reason. Their stuff is just flat out good. Their deodorants leave me smelling wonderful for the entire day, and they have a ton of products to choose from, including the solid stick deodorants. They have cream deodorants, body washes, they even have cleansing wipes on there, for crying out loud. For me personally, I love the bourbon leather scent that they have for their deodorants and their body washes. I have it for the body wash personally. That stuff leaves me smelling like a fine gentleman all day. For the deodorant, I got the Mount Fuji scent, but really any of their scents are fan-freaking-tastic. For their cream deodorant, I actually keep this stuff in my gym bag in case I need to go somewhere after getting juicy from throwing weights around in the gym. You can actually get all of this in their starter pack, which I highly recommend. And if you use my code HYDE, you get $5 off. That is a solid deal. So click on the link in the description down below, head to shopmando.com. And with that said, let's get back to the prospects. Into the 40s we go. We have Josue DePaula at 49. The name of the game with DePaula is the bat. He's only 19 years old, already so advanced, makes a ton of contact, has a good eye at the plate as well, doesn't strike out a whole lot, walks a good amount. Now, with DePaula, he's a big guy at 6'3", still has a lot more room to fill out, so there's a lot of power to tap into here. As for the fielding, though, he's not very fast, doesn't play the field well, but will probably end up playing a corner outfield spot because of the bat being so projectable and not much of a glove. I'd say right here in the middle is probably a good spot. At 48, we have another highly projectable bat in Lazaro Montes with the Mariners, only 19 years old, 6'3", just like Josue DePaula, a ton of power upside, has good bat speed, but is a bit prone to strikeouts, has improved in that area a lot over the last couple of years, but with the defense, not really much going on there. Now, the bat is the calling card. He draws comparisons to Yordan Alvarez. Not a bad comparison if you ask me. At 47, we have one of the youngest players in these rankings, shortstop Leodelis DeVries in the Padres system. International signing this year, there's a lot of upside. DeVries can end up being a 5-tool player. He's a switch hitter with an advanced approach at the plate already and has good bat speed on top of that. And like I said, he's only 17 years old. He's 6'2". Give this guy some whole milk, a couple of Fig Newtons, and he'll end up getting some more power down the road. He's also solid defensively at shortstop, good speed. Could end up playing center field down the road as well. At 46, we got Thomas White in the Marlins system. He was the 35th pick in the 2023 draft, and so far he's off to a great start. ERA just under a 3 over 17 starts. He's a big guy at 6'5", so there's a lot of projection here. Big fastball plus curveball and a solid changeup as well. Was having some issues with command, but he has cleaned that up this past year. I think White is one of the more underrated pitching prospects on this list. At 45, we got first baseman Nick Kurtz, who was just drafted 3rd overall by the A's in this year's draft. I'm a big fan of Kurtz because this guy was an absolute monster at Wake Forest, had over a 500 on base over 3 seasons there, serious power, hits well to all fields, and a good defender at first base. Kind of gives me Jason Giambi vibes a little bit. I think he's going to end up being one of the best prospects from this draft. At 44, we got catcher Moises Ballesteros for the Cubs. When it comes to the defense, he's going to be pretty fringe for the most part. He's not very agile back there. Could end up moving to first base down the road, but the bat is incredibly solid, very patient, even against upper-level pitching, and he can hit with power to all fields. I think he'll end up being a solid hitter, but the question is, will he stay at catcher? Because of that, I'd probably knock him down a few spots in these rankings. At 43, we shift to another catcher, Jefferson Cuero with the Brewers. With Cuero, though, the defense is elite as he moves incredibly well behind the plate. He's got a plus arm that helps him throw out a ton of runners. The bat, on the other hand, could still use some work, needs to work on the plate discipline and the pitch recognition, but could end up being a pretty decent hitter for the most part. He's out for the rest of this year, though, due to season-ending shoulder surgery, so it'll be interesting to see how he is when he comes back because of the questionable bat and because of the season-ending surgery. I think he should be a little lower on this list. At 42, we have outfielder Chase DeLauter for the Guardians, their first-round pick in 2022. DeLauter is a very projectable bat because he's 6'4" and over 230 pounds of straight beef. He's got raw power to all fields because of that strength. His swing tends to get a bit long. The mechanics tend to get a little wonky at times, and he's also been dealing with a foot injury, but when he's healthy, he just mashes. At 41, we have Bubba Chandler for the Pirates. He's got a 4-pitch mix, good velo, and a good slider as well, and he's pitching very well this year. I personally would have Thomas White ahead of him, though, because there is more projection there, in my opinion, but Chandler, he's a solid pitching prospect. And closing out the 40s, we got a guy that's come out of nowhere this year, Brandon Sproat with the Mets. He was their second-round pick in the 2023 draft, and so far, he's looking like a great under-the-radar prospect. He's made a lot of strides after getting drafted, and he has a solid arsenal, including a plus fastball, slider, and a changeup, with a good cutter to go along with it. He gets a good amount of strikeouts, doesn't walk a lot of batters. The fact that he's number 40 on these rankings in his first appearance here really shows how far he's come along this past year. At 39, we got Dalton Rushing with the Dodgers. I'll be honest, and I mean this in a good way, not a whole lot to say. Solid hitter, good power, good plate discipline, and he's good behind the plate as well with a good arm. Just a good, solid catching prospect that should end up being a good middle-of-the-order bat down the road. I personally think he should be a bit higher. At 38, we have Sebastian Walcott. The instant comparison I have here is Jazz Chisholm, a guy with good power and speed, but he can be a bit prone to striking out. Good defense, though, good athleticism with a good arm, and he'll play either the left side of the infield or in the outfield. All in all, a guy that can be a difference maker down the road, but because of the strikeouts, I would knock him down a couple of spots. At 37, we got Cole Young with the Mariners. He makes a ton of contact, doesn't really strike out all that much, not a lot of projection for power, more of a gaps hitter, but could end up having some sneaky pop, a solid defender at shortstop too. I'd say because there's not a whole lot of power projection though, I'd probably put him a little bit lower. At 36, we have Owen Casey for the Cubs. He's got a lot of power and he gets on base, but I'd like to see the strikeouts come down though, as he's striking at about 28% of the time in the minor leagues. In the field, he's not the best out there, but he's fine for the most part in a corner outfield spot. I like the power potential, but I have him a little bit lower because of the strikeouts, and he's average at best on defense. At 35, we got Rhett Lauder for the Reds, the 8th pick in the 2023 draft. I was a big Lauder guy when he was coming out of Wake Forest. Nothing flashy by any means, but a guy with pretty good stuff, including a good fastball, slider, and a changeup. Throws a lot of strikes, has good tempo, very competitive on the mound. I think he's going to be a solid pitcher in the next few years. At 34, we have Andrew Painter for the Phillies. He ended up getting Tommy John last year and won't be back until next season, but there's a lot to be excited about with Painter when he comes back. He absolutely dominated in his first full season of pro ball, posting a 1.56 ERA with 12 strikeouts per 9, under 2 walks per 9, over 22 starts between A ball and Double A. He's 6'7" with a plus fastball and a slider, solid curveball, changeup, throws a ton of strikes. I know he had Tommy John, but I would have him higher on this list. At 33, we got middle infielder Kevin McGonigal, and I think he's one of the most underrated prospects here. A very good hitter that makes a ton of contact and walks a ton. He's 5'10", so there's not a lot of power projection, but he has good strength and makes hard contact, so there's a chance for some sneaky pop down the road. He'll probably end up at second base long term, but he can absolutely handle shortstop if needed. His favorite player was Chase Utley, and to be honest, they are pretty similar when you compare the two. At 32, we got lefty pitcher Hagen Smith, the 5th overall pick by the White Sox in this year's draft. There's not a lot to be excited about if you're a White Sox fan these days, but Smith could end up being an ace down the road. He was nasty at Arkansas this past season, striking out 17 batters per 9 because of his good velo and a nasty slider. Has a changeup as well, but he uses it more to change pace. For me personally, I like Smith a lot, but I would put him lower on this list because his third pitch isn't great as of right now. At 31, we got the 7th pick from the 2022 draft, Cade Horton with the Cubs. This guy was pitching great in the minors up until a lat injury, but he's got a big fastball, a nasty slider, a curveball changeup as well. Throws a lot of strikes. Didn't pitch a whole lot in college because he got Tommy John, but the more experience he gains, the more there is to be excited about here. And wrapping up the 30s, we have Cole Emerson with the Mariners. Emerson, in my opinion, is very underrated here, and I think he he should be higher on this list. He's just a solid hitter and has ridiculous plate discipline, posting a 455 on base in his minor league career so far, makes a lot of contact and a lot of hard contact, and has decent upside for some more power down the road. He's a good shortstop as well. I personally think he should be in the 20s on this list at least. Into the 20s we go. We got Aiden Miller with the Phillies at 29. His best tool is his power, but he's also a disciplined hitter as well, makes consistent hard contact. He has struggled at high A this year, so I'd probably knock him down into the 30s, but I think he's an exciting prospect to keep an eye on. At 28, we got Colson Montgomery, and this is an interesting one. Last year, Montgomery was looking like the real deal because he was a disciplined hitter with power from the left side. He was a good defender at shortstop. He was drawing comparisons to Corey Seager. That's never bad at all. But then he started suffering some injuries, and he hasn't really been the same since. I don't think the White Sox really helped him much either, as they started him in AAA this year after only playing a little bit in AA last year. This year, he's not putting up good numbers. He's only hitting 208, a 329 on base, a 704 OPS overall. Now, he has taken a step back this year, but I do think there's still ceiling here. But because of the bad year, I would put him lower on these rankings. At 27, we got Kyle Teal on my Red Sox. I'm really excited about Kyle Teal. Coming out of Virginia, he was viewed as just a good, solid catcher that played good defense and could hit very well. Honestly, he kind of reminds me of Jason Varitek, a high-floor catcher with good makeup that's dependable. I think he's actually pretty underrated in these rankings as he's hitting close to 300, OPS around 840 in the minors this year, and he just got called up to AAA. Excuse Giraffe Nick Robbie here, but I think there's a case for him to be in the top 20. At 26, we got Jacob Wilson on the A's, and this guy was having a ridiculous year in the minor leagues before getting called up to the majors recently. I mean, take a look at these numbers. He was hitting 438 with an OPS of 1.161. That is ridiculous. Now, he's not going to hit for a lot of power, but the guy just flat out hits, and he's a solid defender at shortstop. I really like Jacob Wilson. At 25, we got Matt Shaw with the Cubs. I'm a big Matt Shaw guy. He reminds me a lot of Dustin Pedroia because he's undersized. He's a gritty player, has a good bat with some pop. He's got decent speed. He's solid in the field. Now, this spot might seem a bit high for some, but personally, I think it's a great spot. At 24, we have Chase Burns, who was just drafted second overall by the Reds. Simply put, this guy is nasty. High-octane fastball, wipeout slider, curveball, changeup to go along with it. He absolutely dominated at Wake Forest this past year, 17 strikeouts per 9. He's going to be stupid good. At 23, we have Chase Dollander, who was picked 9th overall by the Rockies in the 2023 draft. He's similar to Chase Burns, big fastball and a slider, changeup and a curveball as well. Of course, it's always interesting to see how pitchers will fare at Coors Field, but with Dollander, he's so nasty, I don't think it's going to matter. At 22, we got Emmanuel Rodriguez with the Twins. I feel like he's a pretty underrated prospect. He was an international signing back in 2019, and while he's shown flashes of being a productive player over the last few years, he's just now putting it all together. He's always been a disciplined hitter as he has a career on-base percentage over 400 in the minor leagues, but this year, despite missing some time with a thumb injury, he's slugging over 600, hitting just under 300. He does strike out a bit, but like I said, he gets on base and he just mashes. He has a good shot of being an impact player down the road. At 21, we got Xavier Isaac in the Rays system. I feel like Isaac is a bit of an under-the-radar guy, but there's a lot to be excited about. Simply put, he just hits the crap out of the ball as he ranks near the top of minor league baseball in exit velocity and max exit velocity. He does have some issues with strikeouts and swing decisions, but he still walks a decent amount. He could improve his overall plate discipline, but he could end up being a very dangerous hitter in the major leagues later down the road. Wrapping up the 20s, we got the highest ranked catcher, 2023 international signing Ethan Salas with the Padres. Salas has a good shot at being one of the top catchers in the game down the road, and he's only 18 years old for crying out loud. Defensively, he's already so advanced for his age. He's very agile, blocks well, has a good arm. Offensively, though, the numbers have dipped this year. He tends to get under the ball a lot, but if he can clean up that swing and get stronger as he grows older, I think the bat could come around and he could be a superstar catcher later on. Into the teens we go. At number 19, we have JJ Weatherholt. I was a big fan of JJ Weatherholt in this year's draft, and I think the Cardinals got a steal with him at the 7th pick. He did have some injuries at West Virginia, but when he's healthy, he's just a good ball player. Solid bat, great plate discipline. He's more of a contact over power guy, but he still has good pop to all fields. Doesn't really strike out all that much. He walks a lot. He's solid defensively, either at second base or shortstop. Has good speed as well. He just checks off a lot of boxes. I think there's an argument for him maybe being a little higher on this list. I think he's going to be a great player. At number 18, we have another player who was just drafted, Jack Caglione with the Royals. Simply put, he could be an impact bat. He's just a monster in the box, a 6'5", .205, has stupid power, was setting home run records at the University of Florida. One problem with Caglione, though, was he had a high chase rate at UF. Now, he didn't strike out a whole lot and still made a decent amount of contact, so let's see how he does in the minor leagues, but it is a bit of a question mark. I do think he could be a very good middle-of-the-order bat down the road, but again, the plate discipline is a little bit of a question mark as of right now, so I would put him a little lower on this list. At 17, we have the Yankees' only top 100 prospect, Jason Dominguez. I'll be honest here, I'm kind of ready for Dominguez to be off these rankings because this is the 5th year he's been on them now. Let's get this guy healthy and playing full-time already. Nonetheless, though, the Martian should be a very productive player, and we already saw last year how good he could be, hitting his first home run off Justin Verlander and playing very well after that until he needed to get elbow surgery. Hits for average, power, has speed, plays good defense in the outfield. He's a 5-tool player that can be a star when he puts it all together. When you weigh everything with Dominguez, minus the injuries, I think he should be top 10 on this list. At 16, we have Brooks Lee, and he's already up with the Twins now. Simply put, this guy just hits. He was drafted 8th overall in 2022, and there were talks of him being the first pick overall at one point, and for good reason. He's a switch hitter, makes a ton of contact, a lot of hard contact as well, barely strikes out, has the upside for 25-30 home runs per season, maybe even a little bit more, plays shortstop well, has a good arm that would also fit at third base. I think he's going to be one of the more solid players in the game in a couple of years. At 15, we have Noah Schultz in the White Sox system. Like I said earlier, not a lot of happiness these days for White Sox fans, but there's a lot to be excited about with Hagen Smith and Noah Schultz. First off, he's a massive lefty at 6'9", similar to Randy Johnson. Now, the fastball tends to get hit a little bit, but he's also incorporating a two-seamer as well to switch it up. His best pitch is his wipeout slider because it has a ton of spin, and it's coming from a crazy angle because of his height. He's got a good changeup as well, throws a lot of strikes. Keep your eyes out for this guy. At number 14, we got outfielder Roman Anthony for my Red Sox. This guy broke out in a big way last year, and while his surface numbers have come down a smidge this year, it's more about the underlying metrics that could end up helping him being a good player in the major leagues later down the road. He hits the crap out of the ball, producing some of the best exit velocities in all of the minor leagues, and he's a disciplined hitter at the plate. He's got decent speed and should be a solid defender in a corner outfield spot. At lucky number 13, we get the first overall pick in this year's draft, Travis Bazzana. I've talked about Bazzana at length on this channel lately going back to the draft, but he does everything so well. He's a disciplined hitter, makes a ton of hard contact, has good power, has good speed, plays good defense at second base. He's probably athletic enough that if he needs to move to an outfield spot, he'll probably be good out there as well. Bazzana is going to be a very good player in just a short amount of time. At number 12, we have Charlie Condon, who was drafted 3rd overall by the Rockies. It's funny because Pipeline had Bazzana ranked number 1 for their draft prospects, but now they have Condon ahead of Bazzana, so I'm not sure what happened there. But Condon could end up being a freak. He reminds me a lot of Aaron Judge. Big guy at 6'6", has long levers, so a pop-up could end up being an accidental home run. On top of that, has good strength and bat speed, along with good plate discipline, to where he could legitimately be a 40 home run per season kind of hitter. And closing out the teens, at number 11, we got Samuel Basallo for the Orioles. Big guy at 6'4", who really exploded last year, hitting over 300 with an OPS over 900 this year, hitting well yet again. He hits the ball extremely hard, has a good approach at the plate, doesn't strike out too much, but I think he needs to get the walks up a little bit. Nonetheless, there's a lot of potential with Basallo. Into the top 10 we go. We have another Oriole, Kobe Mayo. He was called up recently, but then sent back down, but man, oh man, Mayo has a lot of potential. While he is prone to strikeouts, he has a lot of power, hitting 20 home runs with over a 900 OPS at AAA this year, and he has gotten the walks up this year. As for the field, he is improving at third base, but he could play first base just fine. Has the potential to be a middle-of-the-order bat. At number 9, we have shortstop Jordan Lawler with the Diamondbacks. He hasn't played much this year because of injuries, but there's a lot of upside here. He does mostly everything well. He's a good hitter, has power, has decent plate discipline despite a higher strikeout percentage, and he plays a solid shortstop with a good arm. He just needs to stay healthy. At number 8, we got the highest ranked pitcher on this list, righty Jackson Jobe. This guy is just nasty. Big fastball, stupid slider. He's improved his changeup to be a plus pitch, and he has a cutter to go along with it. This guy has the potential to be the next ace for the Tigers like Justin Verlander was. At number 7, we have center fielder Max Clark. I was a little surprised about him being this high. Now, don't get me wrong, I like Max Clark a lot. I think he's a stud. He's a great hitter that makes a lot of contact, and he's also very very disciplined, walks almost as much as he strikes out. He's extremely athletic with a good arm and destined to be an everyday center fielder. The only thing that holds me back a smidge on him is the power. Now, he's more of a gaps hitter, and while I do think he's going to add some power as he matures and starts to lift the ball more, I just wonder what the ceiling is there. Again, nothing against Max Clark, but I personally would have had some guys ahead of him like Jason Dominguez, maybe even Jordan Lawler, or even Jackson Jobe, who has a really good ceiling on the mound. At number 6, we have shortstop Carson Williams for the Rays. Simply put, he's an excellent shortstop with a pretty good bat, excellent range in the field, good hands, has a strong arm. With the bat, has power because of the good bat speed, has a little loft in the swing, but he tends to have trouble with the strikeouts. This year at Double-A, he's striking out almost 28% of the time, so he needs to clean that up, but he walks a decent amount too. I think because of the defense, he has a really good floor, which will give him time to work on that bat, but I do think he should be a little lower here. That's just my opinion. Into the top 5 we go, and we have shortstop Marcelo Meyer on my Red Sox. I'm very excited about Meyer, and I do think he's going to be next up in a long line of good shortstops for the Red Sox. He's gotten comps to Corey Seager because of the smooth left-handed swing, hits for average and power, shows good plate discipline, and he plays a solid shortstop. He just got called up to AAA after hitting over 300 with an 850 OPS. Excuse my draft neck Robbie, but I do think he belongs in the top 5. At number 4, we have the 5th overall pick from the 2023 draft, outfielder Walker Jenkins. There's a lot of upside here. He reminds me a lot of Josh Hamilton. Big frame at 6'3", over 200 pounds at just 19 years old, has stupid power from the left side, already has an advanced approach at the plate, barely striking out and walking a ton so far. Now, he has good power, but he's not hitting for a lot of homers as of right now. My guess is they're working on dialing in the overall profile before he really starts to take off. At number 3, we have center fielder Dylan Cruz. Simply put, this guy's going to be a solid player. Good overall hitter that makes a lot of hard contact, patient at the plate, has good speed, plays great defense in center field with a good arm. He's a 5-tool stud. He's going to be one of the top players in the game very soon. At number 2, we have third baseman Junior Caminero. He did miss some time this year with a quad injury, but he recently just got called back up to the Rays. The power is the real deal here. He ranks near the top of the minors in both exit velocity and hard hit percentage, has over 30 home runs and OPS near 1,000 between A-ball and Double-A, with 20 of those home runs coming at Double-A. He does strike out a smidge. He could up the walks a little bit, but that has improved over time. Third base defense is fine for the most part. I think he could end up being a very special player. And at number 1, we got Jackson Holliday still holding down the number 1 spot. When he got called up earlier this year, I was thinking, okay, we're probably going to have a new number 1 soon, but then he got sent back down after a tough go in his first stint in the majors. My goodness, though, this guy's going to be really good. Hits for average and power, has good speed, plays good defense at either short or second base, and the plate discipline is ridiculous with this guy. He posted a 442 on base over 3 years in the minor leagues. The sky is the limit with this guy. But everyone, those are my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. What do you think of the top 100? What do you think of the updated list? Do you think some guys got snubbed and left out of the top 100? Do you think some guys should be higher, lower? Let me know all of your thoughts down below. But everyone, that's all I got for this video. If you can on the way out, hit that like button for me, subscribe if you're new, and I'll talk to you next time.